Welcome in to take 2 of the off-brand Avalanche podcast. We've had some technical difficulties today, but I think we're through that now. Gotta check one last thing here. Yeah, we're good to go. Okay, so the Avs did win today. I don't know how many people saw the first attempt at this live stream, but we talked a little bit about it. 3-0 win. All 3 goals came within 83 seconds. It was pretty much how I expected that game to go. Darcy Kuemper was a wall, and then we finally solved him, and then the Jenga tower came tumbling down, and we just started piling him on. Looked like the Avs were just the far better team. Arizona could not keep pace. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree. Throughout the whole game, from what I saw, like I said on our take 1, I was able to watch probably about 75% of the game from work today, and every time I tuned in, the Avs were absolutely just buzzing around. It looked like Arizona couldn't keep up, and yeah, like I said, there's obviously some great performances, and I'm sure we'll get into that as the pod goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys hit on it. Darcy Kuemper was a freaking wall, which was to be expected. And like I was saying in our first attempt here, it was looking like it could be like a 1-0 game, could go into overtime. But thank God finally we got one and we're able to kind of open up the floodgates. Yeah, like I said, a couple of guys that really stood out to me. Kadri, thought Eric Johnson had a really solid game. And obviously Darcy Kuemper was freaking electric. But this Arizona team, you can see why they fell off hard after Darcy Kuemper got hurt, because he is the backbone of their team.
Yeah, he is.
There's no question about it. So, definitely kind of a nervous game to watch as an Avs fan. You saw what Arizona was able to do to Nashville when Nashville was heavily outshooting them. Darcy Kuemper just stole some games for them. But like I was saying on our last podcast, I think just the Avs just have more finishing ability, and their high-end scores are a lot better than Nashville. So I'm not really too worried as the series progresses. This was kind of a game, like you said, Billy, that was to be expected, but we were able to get it done.
Yeah, and I mentioned on, I believe, one of the previous podcasts, the way I feel about the West this year is just the differential in skill from the top to bottom is a greater magnitude than we've seen in prior years. Part of that is just because I think the West is top-heavy to begin with. Another part of that is that you have to remember, while yes, Arizona did win their play-in game, their regular season standings still have them as an 11 seed. This is a 2 seed playing an 11 seed. And you can say that they are better than that all you want, but we watched the game today, and the talent differential was more substantial than any series we have seen recently, at least in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 40 to 14 shots. What else can you say about that? And really, I can't remember one high danger chance that Arizona got the entire game.
The only one I remember is when Ian Cole felt bad for them and said, I'm going to center the puck for you. Give it right to you.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
That was definitely not the best decision by Ian Cole there, but if you're going to give up one high danger scoring chance a game, then I like our chances.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Zach, what do you think was the difference, really, in the skaters here? I mean, who to you were the Avs that shined?
So I got one cliche answer, and then 2 that I like to bring up because I think they played well. 1, obviously, Nas. Yeah. Nas played amazing. He's setting the tempo. I think Marshall said he had 7 shots or 14 shots.
It was 7 or 8 or something. I can't really remember.
But either. Pressing and moving into my second guy, Eric Johnson. Yeah. This guy is I left him off my X Factor list, and I don't know why. This is another guy that could be on the quote-unquote revenge tour, injured a lot of the times in the playoffs, or we just straight up don't make it. This is probably, I think, literally his second time in the playoffs. So Eric Johnson's absolutely ready. He's put the puck in the net a lot for us in the past. We've seen what he can do if he gets hot as well, and that's just another weapon in the back end.
Yeah, Eric Johnson was great today.
Yeah. Like he was really the driving force of that defense, even over Kill McCarr, in my opinion. I mean, McCarr looks solid. Not really knocking on him. He did get that first shot on net that led to the goal, which I really like. You love when McCarr's shooting the puck, but Johnson, between Kadri and Johnson, they had like a third of our shots together there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty freaking insane coming from Kadri, not really a guy that like you look at as being, one of our main driving forces like a Miko or a Mac. And then obviously Eric Johnson, who a lot of people are kind of sleeping on, like you said, Zach. So I really like what I saw from those guys. And I'll say it again, the fourth line, I think they had a terrific game. I mean, Matt Calvert was all over the place, especially in the first period. I really like what Belmar was doing, and Nieto just kind of continues to prove why he's in the lineup over Jost.
Yeah, I mean, another guy you got to talk about is JT Comfort, who's now on a scoring streak. I mean, last game he didn't play great, but managed to put a couple points in anyway. This game, I thought he was significantly better. I don't think he had just an insanely good game, but I thought he had a fairly good game, and the goal makes it a great game. So JT Comfort, a guy to watch. If he's just gonna keep scoring, then we're gonna keep rolling him out. And I love the secondary scoring. This is a game where the top line, they did get that goal at the end, but they could not get anything in the net. And really, they were good but not great. And despite that, we were scoring and winning anyway, with our secondary scoring kind of driving the bus there, which, I mean, look at this team a year ago, and that is not a conversation that we could have had.
Yeah, another kind of X factor that I'd like to point out in this game is I thought Bednar did a terrific coaching job. For a couple of reasons. For one, he really limited the Coyotes' chances. Obviously, like we said, in my opinion, only one high danger scoring chance, and then only allowing 14 shots. This side, 14 shots is like a pretty good first period, especially in the playoffs. Let alone the entire but for the entire game, it's definitely not good. Another reason, though, he ended up going with a bunch of line shifts. There were numerous times when he was switching up the first line. He ended up putting back three-headed monster with Landy, Mac, and Rance. And there were some times when Kadri was rolling with Landy and McKinnon. So it was a little bit interesting, but obviously finally he was just putting X's and O's together until they got a goal done. So
yeah, I mean, I really liked the way Bednar coached today, and the ability to keep all the players reined in is something that you have to give him credit for. When it was 0-0 and they just couldn't get anything in the net, it's hard to blame them if they would have wanted to switch to something else. But Bednar just kept telling them to hammer away, and they kept hammering away at what they were doing, and eventually they broke through that wall. And I think that's definitely something that Bednar deserves a lot of credit for.
Yeah. I mean, I know you guys have been involved in hockey games in which you are clearly the dominant team, but just nothing's going right for you. And it can get really frustrating. So that's just a testament to Bednar's coaching ability and really the leaders on the team. You already know Landy was in the locker room just telling them just to keep it together, it's going to come. And it eventually did, and we saw it happen really quickly. So
yeah, that was great. So what do you guys think moving forward? Do you think that's what a lot of these games look like? Do you think maybe we've started to get through that Darcy Kemper wall and maybe it'll be a little bit easier to crack it next time? Or do you think we have a lot of these low-scoring, tough wins ahead of us?
It's going to be interesting to see, in my opinion, because do you think Arizona's just going to continue to put up 14 shots?
I think they might.
If that happens, then it's going to be a really quick series.
Yeah, I said 6 when we started, and I mean, just after watching the talent disparity in this game, I'm starting to think it might be quicker than that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say 4 or 5. Arizona did not look like they could hang. It didn't look like teams
Mm-hmm.
that belonged in the same building for parts of that game.
Yeah, literally, there's not a player on Arizona that like truly stood out to me. Even Taylor Hall or Phil Kessel. If I had to pick one player, I guess it would be Connor Garland. He had a couple solid chances, but um, like their skaters could just not hang with the boys.
Yeah, it was pretty clear and obvious. They just really couldn't. The Avs are just way faster in pretty much every aspect there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Darcy Kemper is not. I don't know. Like he's a Vezina candidate. He could definitely stand on his head and steal a game. That's why I think we picked 6 because that's what we were worried about.
Mm-hmm.
But just I don't think I think the boys end up breaking through the wall a little.
Okay, we're reconnected. So yeah, Grubauer took 14 shots in this game, which a little bit sad, but he didn't let himself get cold, which is
Yeah.
promising. And that's an issue we've had in the past with Avalanche goalies is even games where we're outplaying the other team, if our goalies get too cold, we've let in some soft ones, and the fact that Gru did not do that is very good. Because that's something that can happen in one of these games, and that's sometimes how games end up being stolen. Really good goalie play on one end, and then they crack through a cheap one to win that game 1-0. And that is something that is the danger of Arizona, and we avoided that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I was definitely worried at the end of the game, especially with one of their like third period power plays. I was like, it's here it goes, just a 1-0 game with us out shooting them like more than double. So yeah, kudos to Grubauer with that one. I think he would like to get a little bit more shots just so he's kind of prepared for further series. But I mean, I don't really want them to see that happen. I mean, I'm fine with them putting 14 shots on net the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal. The other thing, Zach, you mentioned, like, the big thing we were worried about is Darcy Kemper stealing games. In order for him to steal a game, Arizona, the skaters have to at least put one in the net. So eventually it's going to happen. We're not going to get through this series in 4 games with 4 shutouts. That's not a realistic expectation for any team in any series. But you got to love the foundation that we've built today, It
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
Marshall and I were texting back and forth, and we were real nervous for parts of that game just because of the inability to crack the Darcy Kemper wall. It looked exactly like the series between Arizona and Nashville, where we were seeing Nashville just pour on the shots, and then Arizona got a couple cheap goals that ended up allowing them to steal a couple games they maybe didn't deserve. So let me just ask you guys this. Over under. Give me an over under on how many goals you think Arizona does score in this series.
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I guess where are we putting the line at? I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say under 10, just to be safe.
Okay. About
Um,
depends on how many games we go.
yeah,
About 3, 4, 2,
Mm-hmm.
3 a game, I guess.
yeah. I mean, if it goes 4, then I would definitely say that there's not going to be more than 10 goals Arizona scores. I mean, if we sweep them, especially like how we're playing right now, it would be pretty surprising to see them score more than 2-3 in those games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd
Definitely
say
agree.
10 is a solid number. It would be kind of fun a little bit to kind of see a shootout, just like one of the high scoring games that you can kind of sometimes see with the Avs, but I just don't really see that happening right now. I see kind of lower scoring games. The Avs just continuing to apply pressure to Kemper and Kemper just like making miraculous saves to kind of keep them in. So I think that's going to kind of be the theme for the series. We've said it. But let's just get through this series and move on at this point. Like, I mean, Arizona kind of proved today that they kind of do not belong in the Avs
Mm-hmm.
category.
Yeah, and I mean, an underrated aspect of the Avalanche. I was reading a couple articles actually by the Coyotes writers, and a lot of them, what they had to say is the Avalanche are very high powered on offense, but their defense is vulnerable, and I'm gonna have to strongly disagree with
Yeah.
that. The Avalanche, yes, we have a very high powered offense. Our defense as well. We were one of the top 5 teams in fewest goals allowed per game this year, and for good reason. We are deep on the back end, and we've got high end talent in Makar on the back end. So, Marshall, you were talking about our ability to pull out these very low scoring wins. I mean, 3 goals doesn't look all that low scoring at the end of the
But if you
day, but watching the game, it was.
yeah, if you consider that those 3 goals happened in a minute and a half, then yeah.
Hey, good to see you, Jesse. Thanks for hopping in the live stream. It was, yeah, the 3 goals in a minute and a half. It doesn't, yes, technically we scored 3 goals in the game, but I mean, that was a 1-0, 2-0 hockey game that happened to say 3-0 on the scoreboard, in my opinion. And I love that the
Yeah.
Avs can pull that out. The the sign of a truly elite hockey team, in my opinion, is the ability to win in all kinds of different ways. Not
Yeah.
only can we win those 9-7 crazy shootouts, but we can also win those closer 3-2 games, and we can also drag out those grindfests and win 1-0. And that is something that's big for us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's going to be really important moving forward as well, because the remaining 3 teams that I think we could potentially see down the line, with being St. Louis, Dallas, or Vegas, they can all, like, we've seen them all be able to kind of win in different ways. I guess maybe not so much Dallas. Dallas
Yeah.
is a very defensive-minded game or team, but like if we're going to want to move up past from Dallas, then we're going to need to figure out how to like get through their defense, like kind of win those 2-1, 3-2 type of games. And I think the Avalanche have it in them, but they are very, very high scoring team, have a very high caliber offense, like we said. And I think we're going to continue to play our game, but we have shown the ability to win in different facets. Billy, I have a question. Was the articles that you were reading before or after the
Before
game?
the game.
Because
Yeah, I don't
okay,
think they
because
say
if
it
it was
after.
after, then yeah. Another thing that I'd like to point out is, yeah, Arizona truly did have us where they wanted us after the first period, and even after the second. I mean, that's how they were winning the national games. Some of the NHL, like NHL TV announcers, like because it was on NHL Network before it switched over to NBCSN, but after the in the first intermission, they were talking about like, yeah, exactly what I was just saying. Like Arizona, this is how they win the games, and they even predicted for like Kessel to come down and score. I didn't really see that happening just because they had 3 shots on goal, but still, it's like, oh, come on, give the boys a little bit more credit. Like we're a little bit of a different hockey team than Nashville. Nashville's notorious for,
Their inability
you
to
know,
finish.
just yeah. So, I mean, if you have guys like McKinnon, Rantanen, even Kadri in this game, just going out there proving why they are elite finishers in this league, then you got to give us a little bit more credit than that. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to touch a little bit on grittiness and winning in multiple different fashions, like you were saying, Billy. To me, this goes back to the training camp and Jared Bednar absolutely ripping the boys in training camp
I like that.
over hitting. This is a totally new direction the boys are trying to take in this playoffs because we know if we want to win, we're going to have to face Vegas. We're going to have to, face Tampa potentially in the finals. And these are 2 teams that can beat you with speed, just like we have, so we're going to need to grind it down. And if you look at what Rantanen said after the game, his praise on Kadri is really telling, saying that he sets the tone for the boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saying things like that is really telling from an all-star player like Mikko.
And I think the whole Kadri move was kind of part of Sakic's grand plan. Like Kadri's not only just like a regular season guy, but he's someone that you truly do want in the playoffs. Like he's that kind of X factor, the gritty type of guy. I mean, we have a few of those guys. Like Calvert's a perfect example of that. But Kadri is that grinder that brings like a ton of skill to the table. So those are the guys that you need for a long playoff run, and I think we have plenty of them. I mean, even looking at like Landy, Nichushkin, and Rantanen could get dirty sometimes. I mean, I did like the way that Rampton was kind of throwing his body around. He was getting deep in the zone, especially in the first. Took a pretty big hit by Jarmelson, but got right back up and just continued to grind. So that's a good example and a good sign for things to come, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kadri. We're kind of finding out that he's great in the playoffs because historically he's a guy that would be good if he were not suspended, at least in the last couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that he might be a legitimate dark horse Conn Smythe candidate if the Avs do go all the way. McKinnon, a guy that elevates his game in the playoffs as well. Kadri, a guy elevating his game in the playoffs. Not only do we have a team full of elite talent, we have a team full of elite playoff performers, and we're missing playoff Wilson as well. So, I mean, I think you give credit where it's due perfectly there, Marshall. Joe Sakic built this roster not only to be a very talented roster, but a roster that knows how to get it done in the playoffs. And Kadri's performance thus far is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. I mean, Sakic he's always looking for high character guys. That's always what he goes out in drafts, man. I mean, Tyson Jost is a very high character guy. All the draft picks that he makes, he kind of like looks for like just true leaders. I mean, Landeskog's a true leader. We have a bunch of true leaders on the team. And another thing is like, I think this is a very tight team. I think there's a lot of like camaraderie and chemistry just off the ice. I think they enjoy each other's company, and that's important. And staying in a bubble in Edmonton for hopefully 2.5 months. So, I mean, if you go and like look at the highlight from the bench after the first goal, you can just see how pumped up the boys were. Zadorov was throwing water all over the ice, and that's just kind of something you love to see, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Having them all in the bubble. Do you guys think that we maybe get to a point where some of the teams that aren't so tight-knit maybe start to struggle a little bit as we get deeper in? I mean, I think these guys are professionals and they know how to get along with each other, and most of them do get along fine. The example I would be thinking of is Toronto, although they're out, so that it wouldn't actually happen, but a team that, has maybe isn't so tight knit, has had some publicized issues in the locker room. Does that become a factor with everyone pushed into the bubble, maybe down the line?
I could see potentially that happening, obviously, but like you said, Billy, these guys are professionals, and if that does happen, I don't think, unless it's really big, we're going to hear about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would agree, and I really think that it becomes too much of a problem in the NHL, just because I think, like we said, hockey players are for the boys. I know that's pretty cliche, but still, it reigns true. They love each other's company. I do end up seeing it potentially becoming a problem in the NBA, though. There's just a lot of personality in the NBA. No knock on just like the league, but that's just kind of what it is. There's a lot of personalities in the NBA and not really so much in the NHL, in my opinion. So I don't really see it being too big of an issue, but I do think there is an advantage. There is an advantage for like teams that are closer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, another thing that I want to talk about today. Moving into Game 2, give me your number one player to watch on the Avalanche, and then another one on the Coyotes, not named Darcy Kemper.
Okay. Zach, do you want to start? Or
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. And just based on what I saw today, I think Eric Johnson has one in him next game for sure. Whether that's a slap shot from the point or breaking in like he does, slinging a shot low, the Condor stuff. Definitely him. And if I had to pick someone from freaking Arizona, I guess you got to go with probably the star.
All right. Technical difficulties again. It's been a rough day as far as the internet goes. But Marshall, you were talking about your X Factors. You had mentioned Grubauer on the Avs and Clayton Keller for the Coyotes, just a young guy who stepping it up would be massive for them. And I absolutely agree with that. Clayton Keller was actually going to be my X Factor for the Coyotes as well. But, I mean, on a similar tangent, I think Chikrin could be another X factor on the back end,
Mm.
a younger guy that has a ton of talent, and if he similarly steps up, could absolutely be massive for the Coyotes, not only on the offensive side of the puck, but the defensive side as well. Maybe slow down that high-powered Avalanche offense. And I think that for the Avalanche, Mikko Rantanen is a guy that I think is on the verge of exploding. We saw him come out hot today, was very physical. He was throwing bodies all over the place, trying to get some shots on net, couldn't quite get any opportunities going. He did put the puck in, and then kind of between all that, he was cold for a little while. But I really like where Rantanen seems to be at right now, and I think this is a guy that is primed for a breakout game, like a playoff breakout game, and I think we see a multi-point game out of Rantanen in the next couple here.
I agree. What he did on that goal was pretty impressive. Choking up on the stick, getting down on one knee, just making sure that the puck ends up in the net. I like that goal a lot, and it was a really beautiful pass by McKinnon. What did you guys think about that hit that was put on Landy?
That was
Yeah, I was about to mention. Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
I am glad that Landy's okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely came in on the blind side there.
Yeah, that's like holy crap. I mean, I didn't even see a ref's arm go in the air after that, but it definitely should have. That was a pretty big cheap shot. Kind of staying on that penalty tangent. The Avs only had 2 power plays in this game, and still put on 40 shots. So if Arizona upped those numbers, taking a couple more penalties, especially trying to slow them down, which I think is a very good possibility, then we could definitely see some more goals coming from Colorado and some more high danger chances.
Absolutely. So we saw Nieto today, and I think we will be rolling with Nieto for the most part. But similar to the goaltending situation where I've mentioned in previous pods that I think on the back-to-back you obviously give one of those to Frankie. Do you have any thought to giving the second night of the back-to-back, maybe the first night, regardless, either one to Jost over Nieto?
I would say if the Avs win Game 2, then yes. But if not, actually, I don't even know, man, because the fourth line is rolling
It's
right
hard
now.
the way they're rolling to break it up. You gotta wonder, is the throwing in maybe a little more energy, is it worth breaking up the current chemistry?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. Like I've said it on the last episode, I think. Jost is not really a fourth line guy to me. He flourishes playing with better players, just because of the fact that I don't really think he drives play that well. He is a pretty nice finisher, has a pretty solid shot, but he needs other players around him to kind of facilitate the playmaking. And I kind of think that's what Nieto is on the fourth line for. He can definitely break it out. He's got some wheels on him. And then let Calvert and Belmar kind of do the grinding. So it would be kind of hard for me to see Bednar pull out Nieto for Jost at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree. Barring injury, I don't think we're going to see Jost, let alone in the series, but for the whole playoffs.
Jost is doing a pretty good job, though, at keeping the fans updated with their living situation.
Yeah, he's absolutely destroying the boys in ping pong. He's doing good at that.
Yeah, and I mean, you say barring injury, there's going to be an injury. I mean, this is a long playoff, so he'll get in eventually. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of when. But, all right, boys, so we're having some connection issues, so I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. We have got a few viewers left in the live stream, so I really appreciate you guys sticking with us through this poor connection. If you're still there, go ahead and tap that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we will be back on Friday with another podcast with some better internet as well. So thank you for watching. We'll see you in our next episode.